morning, everyone. This is Fran Lewis, I think. This is MJ Network, MJ in memory of my sister, Marcia Joyce. We're going to dedicate the show to her because tomorrow would have been her birthday.
Oh, lovely.
Yes, and I'll actually do something crazy and wild in memory of her tomorrow, too. So, the author of Fire Concerto is here. The reason why this hit me is because I was a concert pianist and violinist in college.
Oh my goodness, that's
Yeah, I
amazing.
was. I didn't know I was, but I was. And the dean made me major in music. The worst thing in the world that can happen to someone.
Hold
Keeping
on, why?
harmony,
Why?
transposition. I could do anything. I could write a sonata, sonatina. I can't sing.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't feel like you
You
have
have
to
to
do that.
sing sight singing. And one of the professors at the end said, "You're so adorable. I'm going to give you a B if you don't take the next class." That's how bad I was.
Oh, wow. I'm really bad at sight singing too,
Yeah.
if it makes you
So
feel any better.
I have two sets of questions. How would you describe the history of the book, and what is the history of the fire concerto? Because I wanted to play it also.
I know, I know. So many people have asked me that since the book
Yeah.
has come out. Um, Obviously, it's not a piece of music that actually exists. This is all fictional, but it was inspired. That piece, the Fire Concerto, was heavily inspired by Tchaikovsky's Piano Concerto Number One, which if listeners have heard that, it's the really big bangy one. Very exciting, explosive, passionate piece of music. And this is a piece of music I adore, and it definitely infiltrated my writing of this book and the concerto.
I started it, and you know how big it is. I have two of these, by the way. They sent me an extra one because I wasn't sure if I lost the first one. I just sat down and read it. It was worth the eye strain.
Thank you.
But I mean, I love Clara, and I felt so bad for her as to what happened. But I knew there was more behind why that happened. So how did the fire changed her? And I didn't like Madam at all.
Yes, neither
Seriously, I
did
did
I.
not like Madam at all. I'm gonna try to make it louder so I can hear better.
Okay.
Here, right here. Oh, right there? Okay, good. No, I can hear better.
Oh, I can hear you better too.
Yeah, I
Wonderful.
know. It's just my computer didn't let me log on before. It's temperamental lately. Okay, that's better. So why? Why the fire? I cried when that happened.
Oh, yeah. It's so, so as you know, as a musician, and really anybody who uses their physical body to do something they love,
Hmm.
if you have an injury to a hand as a musician, I mean, that is a devastating obstacle and maybe a career ending one. And when I was, first conceiving of this novel, I knew that I wanted my protagonist to have left music
Yeah,
due to an injury, but I didn't quite know what that injury was. And when I
that was
was
scary.
yeah, yeah, I mean, I have a fear of fire for no reason. I've never been in a fire. I don't have any trauma related to fire, but maybe it's, I don't know, some kind of thing passed down. I don't know. I have a fear of fire, but I also knew when I was a teenager, which is when I was very involved in music, I had a friend, a cellist, who had a recurrent nightmare about burning his hand. And I feel like that kind of
Uh-huh.
just stayed with me, because a burn is something that's very difficult to heal from. It's not impossible by any means, but if you get a really bad burn, you have to go through a lot of
Yeah.
recovery in order to gain mobility back to that area of your body. It's very
Well,
traumatic.
I had a weird, stupid accident. I fell outside. I broke my thumb, which
Oh
never
no.
healed right. So that made it kind of hard for me to play the piano, except didn't stop me because I had a bandage on and I did anyway.
Oh wow. Did it heal okay in the
No, it's no. Just
okay.
see, the hand doctor said do this, and I said, you know what, the heck with it. At least it works. I don't care.
Yeah, it's you don't it's our fingers are so integral to truly almost everything we do, but we don't think about them until they are injured.
So yeah, I know. And then when I type my review, your review is on just reviews. I
Oh,
outdid
thank you.
myself. I literally outdid myself. I made it a little bit low, but it was I was just couldn't stop writing, and unfortunately, I type my reviews on my cell phone because my
Oh,
computer
wow.
tends to lose things. So it's on my cell phone in three places, so I didn't lose it. I'm very impressed. So this really bothered me. Poor Clara, she gets hurt, and I really, I know why Madame didn't compliment her. That was easy because I think Clara was better than her at a point. And
I,
you know
you know,
what?
I
Yeah,
feel that,
I had teachers that did that too because I was really smart and it bothered them. And it does bother them sometimes when they have somebody that instead of saying I have a student that's brilliant and I'm helping her, Madam sort of like was not happy. So she had a concerto and she was supposed to play the fire concerto, Clara, right? That would have been
yes.
nice. So how did she get hurt?
How did she get hurt? Is that what
Well,
you said?
first of all, let's see. It seems she was jealous and insecure of her. So how did she connect with my favorite character in the book, Starza? I know I
Ah,
love that
okay.
guy. Oh
I
man,
do.
he's so cool. I
I
love
I love him
Starza.
too. Okay,
Yeah,
so Starza is a composer from the 19th century
he's
who
gorgeous.
is in the fictional world of the book is remembered in the same kind of status as Chopin, Liszt, Brahms,
Yeah,
these very
whoa.
large, composers of the romantic period. And he is a distant relation of my protagonist, Clara. So they are related via her mother's side. And so she is a descendant of him. And he was a musical genius. Clara was a child prodigy. And also, she has all of this history behind her. The family, this is the family's claim to fame, right? They have a famous ancestor. And these two factors, her own gifts plus her, ancestry, kind of propel her into a world of music. And she was a very accomplished child pianist. She became famous until the fire that burned her hand, after which ending her career.
I felt so bad for her. But when I took major in music, they torture you. And you have to do 12 hours a week in the practice room and they monitor you. But I think the worst thing was is that I was playing Chopin, one of his waltzes and something else. They made me transpose it to another key.
Oh, wow, that's hard.
No, yeah, I know. It's called talk about and I did it, and you weren't allowed to write it. They made you come and play it in person and transpose it.
Oh man, that's challenging.
I was pretty good, not bad. I didn't care. So she connected with him. Tell us about the night of the concert and how did she get kicked in? And I wanted to smack Madam. And I felt
Yeah.
so bad for Clara. It changed her whole life in the wrong direction, that's for sure.
Yes. So the night of the fire. So Clara was supposed is a
Mm.
big music festival in Warsaw. So Warsaw is where Alexander Starza lived. And in the world of this book, there's a big music festival celebrating the 175th anniversary of his birth. And Clara is supposed to play his signature piece, the Fire Concerto. But that night, there's a fire in the concert hall, and
Yeah.
Clara goes back to her dressing room in order to get these original scores that she
Yeah,
has
I
had
know. Oh,
to protect them from fire, and she gets trapped in her dressing room, and then she's able to escape, but she's not able to escape unscathed. She's burned. She has, many burns on her face, on her arm, and most crucially for her, on her hand.
I felt so bad. I wanted to smack. There's a reason. I won't say why. But it was just, I know. There are people in this world that don't understand that there are people that are better than they are. And they won't admit it. And of course, we're insecure. So, oh well. Don't mess with Clara, people. Not a good idea. So all of a sudden, she connects with Madam, And why is Madame leaving bequests to all the students? I wanted the one project, the metronome. So I had one on my piano. My mother made me have one.
Oh yeah,
And
everybody has one, right? And many
yeah,
people,
and the piano teacher had one. And they made sure that, I don't know, there was some kind of thing in the metronome that they knew if you used it during the week, they would tell whether you played it or not. And then you go like, give me a break.
it's true, right? A lot of
Yeah,
musicians have a very negative relationship with their
yeah,
metronome. Um, So at the beginning of the novel, so let me just back up and say
yeah,
Clara at the beginning of the novel is working as a bartender. It's 10 years after
yeah.
this fire. She's left music behind. She's working as a bartender and she receives unexpectedly an invitation to her teacher Madame's final
Yeah.
concert. And she's very torn about whether she should go, but because they have all of this unresolved, all these unresolved issues since Madame was there the night of the fire and Clara believes that Madame had an opportunity to save her from that room and did not take that opportunity. Clara does end up going. But when she shows up at Madame's home for this concert, what she discovers instead is that there's only four other people there. Madame is not there. And then a lawyer comes in and says, this is not a concert. This is the gathering of the beneficiaries of Madame's
Oh
estate.
boy.
And I am here to read the will and to give you the bequests that she has left you. And Madame has gathered her five most eminent students, of which Clara is one, to give them her most prized possessions, which are all either musical instruments or some other musical, artifacts such as scores and papers and such. And Clara receives a metronome, an antique
Mm,
metronome from the 19th century that she has never seen. It's a very unusual metronome. It has very interesting, ornate,
yeah.
uh, angels carved on it. It has a lion's head on the pendulum, but most critically, on the winding key, which is what you use to wind a metronome up so that it clocks back and forth, there is engraved the number 72. And she doesn't know why. But also, as she discovers soon after, in the box that the metronome contains, there is engraved in Polish a saying, which is, from pain, we must make beauty.
Mm,
And Clara doesn't know why she has been given this. She's never seen this metronome before, she's never
yeah.
heard about it. And as she comes to discover, she soon starts to suspect that this is the long lost metronome of her famous ancestor, Alexander Starza, which has been missing since 1885 when he was killed by one of his pupils, a brilliant female musician alleged to have been insane.
I'd be nervous to have that metronome. I don't know. I don't know. And each one of these people, if I remember correctly, they were told they had to keep it, but they couldn't give it away.
They were told that, yes. So Madame believes very
Yeah.
strongly that these objects, some of which are
Yeah.
extraordinarily valuable, like
I
a
want the
Guarneri
violin.
violin, yes, are it's the job of the custodian of these things not to own them, but to
Yeah.
preserve them in
Yeah.
order to pass them on. It is a legacy of sorts. And she instructs all of her pupils, this isn't yours. You are just in charge of it for your brief time on this earth. And then you've got to take care of it and pass it on.
They better, or Madam will get you.
That's
Now, here's
right.
where it gets interesting. We have Alexander, who I really like, but he's not normal. So why does his sister take control of his life? I felt like he didn't have a say very much in anything. She did everything.
Yes. So the composer in the book, Alexander Starza, he has a very close but also very complicated relationship with his older sister, Mariana Starza, who
Mm,
in the book looms very large for him. So their mother died when he was young, and Mariana took it upon herself to kind of raise her brother and take an interest in his musical talent and also to serve as kind of a protector of him.
mm,
But as sometimes happens with relationships that are close, they can become a little bit toxic. And Mariana believes that she is protecting her brother, but kind of ends up
Yeah.
dominating his life. And she's concerned for him because he has some issues. When he's young, he's a very sensitive child.
Mm,
Um, and when he gets older, he has some health issues. And she takes it upon herself to kind of, move in with him and
yeah,
take
I
over his
know.
business affairs to make sure that things go as she thinks they should. Um, but in the meantime, it causes a lot of interpersonal conflict between the two of them.
You get hard to tell whether she was really on his side or something else too.
Yes, I think she was, but
To a
she
point.
she wanted it to be her way or no
Yeah.
way.
She reminds me of my mother, who had to have a say over everything. So this is the other character. Constantina, what was her role? And the one thing that I became a really good piano player, but to become a virtuoso, that's tough.
Yes. And
And I tried.
especially back in the 19th century when Constantia was a virtuosa. So this is the woman who kills Starza back in 1885. But before that, she was a celebrated pianist in her own way.
Yeah,
She also was a child prodigy. But similarly to Clara, when she was in her early 20s, she injured her hand in a
her
way
too.
that she could not come back from. And it ended her career. And this caused her a great deal of anguish. And
Mm,
she ends up getting involved with Starza because he says that he has an idea of a way to rehabilitate her hand through this series of, exercises for her to regain control of the fingers that she has lost control over. And so those two end up in a teacher student relationship that is very explosive because we have two
yeah,
very explosive personalities
yeah, I know.
and they collide, and in the end she ends up killing him, and this
I don't know
becomes
why she did, but okay.
it becomes
Now,
a an infamous incident in the
yeah, I
historical
know.
lore of this book.
Now, the other character is Tony.
Yes.
How does he fit into this story? And Constantina and Stars, this guy's
Yes.
really hot.
Yes.
Seriously.
So Tony is Clara's childhood rival. And when they were children, they were both students of Madame, and Madame pitted them against one another in order to kind of, stoke this competition and help them rise up. But of course, this also is has
Mm,
created a an unhealthy situation. But then, as they got older, they had a romantic dalliance that ended poorly, and since that ended, they haven't spoken until the night when Madame gathers all these beneficiaries at her estate, and then they meet for the first time in many years. And so they have a lot of mistrust for one another, but because Tony also knew Madame, because
yeah.
he also has received many of Madame's objects, most crucially, a lot of old music, like
Mm.
rare scores, Clara and Tony end up collaborating in order to uncover the mystery of this metronome and where it comes from.
I have an old no book of music that I found out of nowhere after my sister died of all the old songs of America, Beautiful, and all of them that I would not give it. Oh, the first piece of music that you played, mine was Tchaikovsky's "The Nutcracker Suite."
Oh, wonderful.
It was wonderful. I was like 10 years old. I had to play it by heart in front of an audience of people without the music.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that memorization stuff,
I,
it's so
I
hard.
did. I did. I was impressed with myself. Yeah. So Constantina is called a psychopath, and both she and Tony were consumed with the piano.
Hmm.
Then so was I. I love practicing the violin. My mother never had to say to me, play the piano. I loved every minute of it. And of course, my little bird sang with me.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah,
That's charming.
the piano is like so precious.
It is. And for so many people who, and not just musicians, but people who have a real passion
Yeah,
for some art or discipline or pursuit, it becomes such an integral part of one's life. And for many of the people in this book, especially the women of this book, it
yeah.
is that. It and for Constantia, it was her great love of her life was music. And then when she injured her hand and could no longer play, it it derailed the course of that life.
It changed me when I had a major in music, but it didn't stop me from playing the piano. All the classes I did were fantastic, except that I can't sing. So at the end of it, you have to get up in front of a group of 200 people and create a program to sing.
Oh, wow. That
You
sounds
don't want to
very
know what I sang.
intimidating.
I made up the most original program of all, and the professor looked at me. He said, "You're lucky, you're adorable. So I'm going to give you a B plus." And I had an A average in sight singing and in the music, and I'll give you another B not to take the next one.
Sounds like a good deal.
Yes, my program was original. They're still talking about it. I had the guts to get up and do that, but it was. I sang "This Land Is Your Land" the first. Then I sang "Farashaka" in English and French, "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star," "Humpty Dumpty," and "Little Bo Peep."
Hey, it gets it done, right?
And I took guts to do that. Let me tell you,
Oh, yeah. It's
I got
terrifying to
away
sing
with
in front
it,
of people.
but I didn't care. So she was affected by. Tell us the relevance of December 4th, 1885, and then we moved to part two of the book. Show me how many questions I have, people.
Yeah, so December 4th, 1885 is the night of the murder, the infamous murder
Yeah,
in this book. It has no relevance to me personally. I actually chose it because I don't have any associations with that date. I don't know
nice.
anybody with that birthday or whatever. Um, but that is this date in the book that lives in infamy as the night that the composer Alexander Starza was murdered by his insane pupil Constantia Pleyel, thus causing a reverberation of events that is still continuing when my novel takes place in 1997.
I wish there was a picture of the metronome. That would
Oh,
have been
me
really
too.
cool. Yeah,
Me too.
very cool.
One day
I checked it out to see. They
I
don't even have a
know
picture of a real metronome. They don't even have a small metronome. Nothing.
I really want to have one made according to the way that I've described it in the book. One day I will, Fran, and I'll show you.
So now we have Eleonora. Who is she and what is the Weiss article? It changed everything.
So, Eleonora is a music historian who
Yeah,
has done a lot of research into Constantia Pleyel.
yeah,
And she has started to uncover some old, letters and started to do some interviews about, well, maybe Constantia Pleyel was not this crazy woman that everyone has remembered her to be. Maybe the story is more complicated than that. Most crucially, Eleonora has discovered that Constantia Pleyel was in an abusive relationship with her husband,
mm,
who was a physically and emotionally abusive man.
yeah,
And this has changed Eleonora's thinking on what might have happened that fateful night of December 4th, 1885. And she is trying to kind of reclaim Constantia's legacy as the musician that she was, not the murderer she was. So when Clara goes to Warsaw, which she ends up doing with Tony in order to help, uncover the real truth about this metronome and what maybe really happened the night of Stars's
yeah,
death, Eleonora helps them connect with some of the living relatives of Constantia Pleyel
yeah.
so they can go speak to her and get a little bit more information.
That was interesting. Because how many people would trust anybody to tell anybody anything? Got to be careful with information.
That's
Now,
right.
what about the intermezzo and the controversy? And who is Amelia? We're getting there slowly, people.
Yes. So when they go to Warsaw, the relative that remains of Constantia
Hmm.
Pleyel is this old woman named Amelia, She was Constantia's great niece, and she lives in the home where Constantia's sister lived and died, where there is a trunk full of old letters and
Mm,
journals and
that's
essentially
what started it. Yeah.
yes, a trove of material that no one has ever seen that shed light on what the truth of the relationship between Starza and Constantia was, what the truth of the murder was, and how after that the story got distorted and changed into what historians remember it as, which is a crazy woman killing someone in a fit of jealous rage. But all these materials suggest that it's far more complicated and
Yeah.
interesting than that. And so Amelia does eventually agree to allow Clara and Eleonora and Tony to read these letters, which in there they find not only evidence of a relationship between Starza and Constantia, but also evidence of some music that Constantia wrote, including an intermezzo.
That was the most interesting part of the book, reading the journal.
I loved writing that. I'm so
Yeah,
glad you
and
enjoyed it.
well, you have to see, you have to understand that I mark up the whole book.
Oh, wow. You really
I
do.
mark, it's the way I can remember what questions to ask. And I have a photographic memory, so I don't forget. But I put like, what is the golden interview? And then a question mark for questions that I'm going to answer. Of course, the questions have to be relevant to the book, and that's hard sometimes. No, not really. So, Constantina, her music was paramount. Why was hers the best? Everybody wants to be the best. Well, she really was good.
She was really good. So
I
she
know. Too
had,
bad I couldn't hear her play.
I know. So she had a prodigious talent for composition.
Mm.
And as the novel goes on, Clara finds out that the one of the main reasons Madame has given her this metronome is because Madame was looking for Constantia Pleyel's lost music. She knew that it existed, and she knew that it had disappeared, and she believed it was out in the world somewhere, and she wanted Clara to go and find it. And Clara in the end does find that music in a very unexpected place, and brings that music out into the world. But yes, Constantia Pleyel was a composer of the caliber of Alexander Starza, of all the other composers of that age, but was essentially in hiding because of the abusive relationship she had with her husband. And that music has been safely stored somewhere mysterious
Yes.
for over 100 years.
Before I forget, this is going to be really, I was so impressed. D Day, the anniversary of the 50th anniversary of D Day was 6/6/94. The author that's coming on Thursday was the speaker because his family was died. And he's going to speak about 6/6/94 and the 50th anniversary of D Day because his family was the one that was killed in the whole bunch. So I was honored because he found me. I didn't ask to interview him. I guess he picked me out of nowhere. And on the 25th, the number one horror writer in the world, Vincent Zandri, Terminal Moonlight. If you ever read his books, you'll be scared to death to pick up anything. And then I go into September with Silent Secrets, and on 10/27, this is the biggest honor of the world. Peter James is coming on to do a rest stream, not a Zoom. The main character of the book is Queen Camilla.
Oh, cool.
The book is really interesting, and they portray her a lot differently than you see on the news. But I love him. The only thing I promised him is I would let him pick the glasses I wear that day.
Do you have that many glasses to pick from?
Yeah, he's a riot. So, who is Nadia, and what's the importance of the two envelopes, and who is Helena?
Yes. So, and
Yeah,
for readers, don't worry. At the beginning of the book, there's a list of
yeah,
characters that helps keep it all straight. But Nadia was Constantia's sister, and they were very close. And she kept a journal, which is one of the
Yeah.
materials that Clara discovers in Nadia's old home, that helps her uncover the mystery. But Nadia was Constantia's closest confidant and also her greatest champion. So her granddaughter Amelia is the one who's
Yeah.
in the home that Clara gets to meet. And Helene is Constantia's daughter. So when Constantia murdered Starza, she had a baby
Mm.
and she tried to flee the city with her baby, but she was apprehended and separated from her child.
I remember that. Yeah.
She was sent to an asylum where she died. And the baby was then first given to her husband, who didn't want anything to do with this child,
Yeah.
and then kind of banished her to live with some distant relatives. And Nadia's passion is to try to reunite with Constantia's child, with this niece. But the husband, because he's this brute of a man, will not allow it. He will
Play
not
pal.
allow
Yeah.
anyone to get near this child, even though he wants nothing to do with her. It's very sad. And Helene ends up having a pretty sad life, but she is able to herself have a daughter who, as the reader comes to find out, is Madame, Clara's teacher. And
He was a monster. God.
he was horrible, yes.
I know, and I couldn't believe that Constantino even wound up with this monster. But he sort of controlled her life, and she had no choice. And you don't want to, girls, you got to be careful when you go out with him. Do a background check and make sure that he's not crazy.
It's
You
true, but
never know.
people
Yeah,
like that are sometimes very charming for
I
a while
know. That's right.
before they show their true colors. And back in the 19th century, once you
Yeah,
were married,
you couldn't
it
get a
was
divorce.
very difficult to extract yourself from that man, and he essentially had control over you.
Well, sometimes these women were told that they had to marry the person too.
Yes.
Arranged marriage. I know my grandfather tried, and I told him no. The rabbi's son thought I was wonderful, but I wasn't religious enough for an Orthodox rabbi, so I got away with telling him to tell them no. So that yeah, I told him I said, Ruvain, we're best friends. He was gorgeous. I said, but I don't belong in your family. So he told them that he didn't want to marry me. Thank God.
That I'm glad you did not end up
Yeah,
with the wrong
yeah.
person.
So now I didn't like her at first, but I did like her at the end. Who is Sophia?
All right, so Sophia
Yeah, I
is
liked her at the end though.
yes, so Sophia is
Yeah,
Madame, and there is a chapter toward the end of the book where we see Sophia as a girl, as a 19-year-old
yeah.
old in Warsaw at the conservatory on the early morning of September 1st, 1939, which many listeners will recognize as the date where the Nazis invaded Poland. And she, in the early morning of that day, we see her and understand the story from her
I read that.
perspective,
Yeah,
where she came from, how she got to be the formidable person that she is, and also how she came to have the metronome.
I loved her though. After a while, you have to give her credit after you read her story. So for those of you that haven't read this, it would be wise if you did. And for those of us that love music, this is great. Now, why the insults at the conservatory and how does she succeed? Because I was so proud of Clara at the end.
Yes. So at the conservatory,
Yeah,
Madame is treated very poorly by the male teacher there,
yeah,
who does not believe that women should be allowed into
yeah,
his studio. So this is, again, it's 1939.
yeah.
He is the definition of a misogynist. He really hates women. He does not think that Sophia belongs. But to the point you made earlier,
Yeah.
the bigger reason why he hates her is that he sees that she is so much better than him
Oh, of
because
course.
she is an incredible musician. And he sees that and he is outraged by it because not only is she a woman, but also she was an orphan. She came from an orphanage to come here. So she's kind of like this charity case. And he is a prestigious person and he believes that she is just dirt, and should not be as good as she is. And so he tries at every turn to keep her down. But she is a person of grit and perseverance, and she rises up.
I would not let any, and I did have people that put me down. I mean, I was really smart, and then some teachers don't like when the kids are smart. We're not smarter than you, just that you're lucky to have us because we're really great. I mean, my first sixth grade class was slow, but my second class was geniuses. And if you ever tried teaching kids that had IQs of 180, 190, seriously, that's how smart they were, which made me even smarter. It was tough to teach a class like that. They were not disrespectful or anything, but if I said something, they questioned me right away. I had a backup. I had to be really smart. So yes, so this has got me. What is the importance of the fire concerto? And I really wish I could have heard it being played. I even looked it up to see if there was something similar to us. There was.
Oh yeah, there is a concerto
There
called
was a sample. Yeah, there is one. Yeah.
yeah, I found this after I wrote this book. It's called The Fire
I
by
read, listened to it.
yeah, by Tan Dunn. Yeah. I don't know if I'm saying his name properly. Yes, I the concerto in my book does not sound like his,
No.
but the significance of the fire concerto. So, Fran, as you know, sometimes famous works of music take on a
Yeah.
nickname. For instance, Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata
Yeah.
or Chopin's Raindrop Prelude. These aren't names that the composer gave to these pieces, right? These are nicknames that they earn over time. And in the novel, this big concerto that Stars wrote has been nicknamed the Fire Concerto, both because it is this very explosive, fiery,
Yeah.
passionate piece of music, but also because the tempo marking on the piece is Allegro con fuoco, which is one of my
Whoa.
favorite things
I
to see on
know.
a
Oh
piece.
my God. Yeah, I
That
know.
literally means fast with fire. And so over time, this piece has adopted the name the Fire Concerto, but also, of course, Clara is burned in a fire, and fire is a central component, a theme of this novel.
I know. I don't even know how she came to play that. I mean, I would play something, and my teacher was Gail Dante, and they go, "Lego, you got to be kidding me!" And you had to practice it because if you did it wrong, never mind. And it's hard, especially how the way she had to play that so fast. Her fingers really had to move,
Yes.
which meant she couldn't worry about her hand or anything. So, the surprise ending. How would you say Clara would say about her journey? And are you going to continue her story? I hope in the sequel, people.
So there is a surprise ending, which I won't reveal, but I will reveal that Clara's journey ends with her returning finally to music. Obviously, she can't play the same way that she used to. She
Yeah,
suffered a
no.
very difficult injury to her hand, but she comes back to it, which is um, very important for her. So her journey ends with a return to music, and I am writing a new book, but it is not about her.
Oh, you got to bring her back. I mean, I want to see her destroy Madam.
Ah.
Madam comes back, but it's not quite the same. I want to see her play a piece with Madam and be better.
Oh, yeah,
And
maybe a
Madam
prequel.
and Madam turn around to her and say, "I owe you an apology." That's never going to happen either.
No, that's not
So,
gonna happen.
I mean, like I said, I read fast, and this book I just gave me eye strain twice, so I couldn't put it down.
Oh, thank you.
Well, actually, unfortunately, my dermatologist's wife was taking all my books. Now I leave these in the mailroom, and they take them.
Oh.
Oh,
That's a
without a
nice way to
doubt, they
pass it
take. I'm
on.
sure they take everything I read because nobody buys books anymore, and I never had to either. So, for those of you that want, I just got the new Patricia Cornwell book that's coming out in October.
Oh, is it good?
It's different. It's Case Scarpetta, and the only thing I can't read are the autopsy parts. It's very graphic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one, and I got one today. Humpty Trumpty, 100. Yeah, a hundred poems about the president. I started to read it from January 20th to December. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. And then I
That sounds
got one
good.
about the dehumanization and you have black people, and then I'm not sure about that, but I'm getting a whole bunch more. But
Wow.
yeah, and I'm booked. My show is booked until October, till actually till November 5th.
That's great.
So if you have something coming out, make sure I know. So
Okay.
before where can we find out more about you and your work? And everybody, if you didn't read this, what are you waiting for?
That's right. I agree with Rand. What are you waiting for? So you can find out more about me at my website, which is Sarah with an H, landandwitch.com. Also, I'm on Instagram. I'm on Blue Sky. The book is available in all formats. It's hardcover, ebook, and audiobook. The audiobook is fantastic, by the way. It's read by Katrina Link. So if for those of you who like to read that way, I recommend that.
Well,
And
everybody's going to want to read this, and
I
I
hope
know that
so.